The lawyer's office was uncomfortably quiet as Mr. Patterson read the last lines of my mother's supposed will. I watched my sister Olivia's perfect mask crack into a triumphant smile as she heard the words we'd all been waiting for. And to my eldest daughter, Diana, I leave nothing. Her choices and actions have proven she doesn't deserve any part of what I've built. Everything goes to my younger daughter, Olivia, who has always been the dutiful child I could rely on. My name is Diana Chin, and at 34, I was watching my sister's carefully orchestrated performance reach its climax. 3 months of preparation had led to this moment, and I had to admit, she played her part perfectly. Diana, Mr. Patterson said, his voice thick with rehearsed sympathy. Your mother was very clear about her wishes. I know this must come as a shock. I kept my face carefully neutral, fighting back a smile. If they only knew what I'd discovered in Mother's study that rainy night in March. It's not a shock, Olivia interjected, her voice dripping with fake concern. It's been pulling away from the family for years. Mother was heartbroken about it. I thought about the real will safely stored in my safety deposit box along with documentation that would destroy not just Olivia's inheritance claims, but her entire carefully constructed facade of the perfect daughter. Is there anything you'd like to say, Diana? Mr. Patterson asked, probably expecting tears or protests. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. No thank you. Mother's wishes seemed quite clear. My calm response clearly wasn't what they expected. Olivia's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together in confusion. Our family friends, gathered as witnesses, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Well then, Mr. Patterson continued, shuffling his papers, we can proceed with the transfer of assets. Olivia, if you'll stay behind to sign some documents. I walked out of the office without looking back, but I could feel their stares. Poor Diana, they were probably thinking. Cut out of her mother's $50 million estate without a penny to show for years of family loyalty. If they only knew. 3 months earlier, I'd been working late in Mother's study. As her health declined, I'd taken over managing many of her business affairs, something that infuriated Olivia, though she'd never admit it openly. That night, I was searching for some old contract documents when I found something that changed everything. Tucked behind a loose panel in Mother's antique desk was a stack of papers that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing systematic theft from Mother's accounts. Forged documents with poorly imitated signatures. And most damning of all, evidence that Olivia had been slowly poisoning our mother for months. The real will was there too, dated just 2 weeks before Mother's death, along with a letter addressed to me. My dearest Diana, if you're reading this, then my suspicions about Olivia were correct. I've been gathering evidence, but I'm getting weaker by the day. The doctors can't explain it, but I know now. It's her. Your sister is poisoning me. I've changed my will to leave everything to you, but Olivia's been watching me too closely to file it officially. I trust you'll know what to do with this information. You were always the clever one, though you hide it better than your sister thinks. Be careful. She's more dangerous than we knew. All my love, Mother. That night changed everything. Instead of confronting Olivia immediately, I did what Mother taught me. I planned. I watched. I gathered more evidence. While Olivia played the devoted daughter, I documented every suspicious bank transfer, every mysterious payment, every unexplained withdrawal from Mother's accounts. I hired private investigators to track her movements and connections. Most importantly, I let her think she was winning. Now walking out of the lawyer's office, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to Detective Sarah Martinez. It's done. She took the bait. My phone buzzed almost immediately with her response. Team in position. Meeting in 20. I headed to my car, catching a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I looked calm, composed, nothing like someone who'd just been disinherited. Mother would have been proud. The cafe where I met Detective Martinez was quiet this time of morning. She was already there, a thick file on the table in front of her. Your sister signed everything? She asked as I sat down. I nodded, ordering coffee from the hovering waitress. Every fake document exactly as we planned. Mr. Patterson played his part perfectly. He didn't have much choice, Sarah said grimly, not after we showed him evidence of his involvement in Olivia's earlier schemes. That had been a shocking discovery. Our family's trusted lawyer, helping Olivia embezzle from Mother's accounts for years. But it had worked to our advantage. Facing serious criminal charges, he'd agreed to cooperate. How much time do we have before she realizes something's wrong? I asked. Sarah checked her watch. The bank should be calling her within the hour. All those accounts she thinks she's inheriting? Frozen. Every property she's planning to sell. Already transferred to your name, per your mother's real will. I sipped my coffee, thinking about the moment ahead when Olivia would realize her perfect plan had backfired. And the evidence of the poisoning? Rock solid. The toxicology reports confirmed everything. Your mother's tissue samples showed elevated levels of thallium, slow acting, hard to detect unless you're looking for it. We found traces in her makeup, her medications, even her favorite tea. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth as I thought about Mother's slow decline. How many of us had dismissed her symptoms as natural aging? How long had Olivia been planning this? There's something else, Sarah said, pulling out another document. We found connections to 2 other suspicious deaths. Wealthy older women, both with daughters who suddenly came into large inheritances. Olivia appears in their social circles just months before each death. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. She's done this before. Sarah nodded grimly. We think your mother was her 3rd victim. But this time she got sloppy. This time she left evidence. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Lunch tomorrow? We should talk about the house. Right on schedule, I murmured, showing Sarah the message. She'll want to convince me to move out quickly before she sells it. Perfect. That gives us time to set up surveillance. When she realizes the accounts are frozen, she'll probably try to access her backup plans. We need to track everything. I thought about the cameras already installed throughout the house. The recording devices hidden in strategic locations. Olivia had no idea she'd been under surveillance for months. There's one thing I don't understand, Sarah said as we prepared to leave. Why did your mother hide the evidence instead of going to the police directly? I smiled sadly, because she knew Olivia would see it coming. This way, she never suspected anything. Mother gave her just enough rope to hang herself. As if on cue, my phone rang, Olivia's number flashing on the screen. Right on time, Sarah said, checking her watch. The bank must have made the call. I let it ring, imagining Olivia's face as she learned that every account she thought she was inheriting was frozen pending a criminal investigation. That every property she'd planned to sell had already been transferred out of her reach. When are you bringing her in? I asked. We'll let her panic for a few hours first, Sarah replied. Let her make some suspicious moves. The more evidence we have, the better. I thought about Mother's letter, hidden away with the real will. She'd known exactly what she was doing, setting this trap for Olivia. While my sister thought she was cleverly orchestrating Mother's death and my disinheritance, she was actually documenting her own crimes. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Olivia. The bank must be mistaken. Call me immediately. I showed it to Sarah, who smiled grimly. Let the show begin. By evening, Olivia had called 17 times and sent 32 increasingly frantic text messages. I watched them pile up on my phone screen as I sat in Sarah's surveillance van outside our family home. Something's wrong. The latest text read, all the accounts are frozen. Mr. Patterson isn't answering my calls. We need to talk now. Through the van's sophisticated audio equipment, we could hear Olivia pacing in Mother's study, her heels clicking frantically against the hardwood floors. She'd been making calls for hours, growing more desperate with each passing minute. The money has to be somewhere, she was saying into her phone. Check offshore accounts, numbered accounts, everything. A pause. What do you mean you can't access anything? I'm the sole heir. I have every right to. Sarah adjusted her headphones. She's getting sloppy, making mistakes. Listen to how she's incriminating herself. I nodded, thinking about how carefully Olivia had always maintained her image. The perfect daughter, successful businesswoman, grieving sister. Now that facade was cracking. My phone lit up again, this time with a message that made my breath catch. I know what you did, Di. Mother told me about your little investigations before she died. If you think you can take what's rightfully mine. Sarah leaned over to read the message. That's interesting. She's trying to bluff, but she's actually admitting she had conversations with your mother near the end. Conversations where Mother was supposedly telling her about me, I added. Which we know never happened, because Mother was documenting Olivia's actions instead. Inside the house, Olivia's voice rose sharply. The safety deposit box too. How is that possible? I have the only key. Sarah smiled grimly. She's just discovered her secret stash is gone. The one where she kept the poison and the forged documents. I thought back to the day we'd accessed that safety deposit box, using the warrant Sarah had obtained. The evidence we found there had been damning, detailed notes about thallium poisoning, practice sheets of Mother's signature, even records of her previous victims. Mrs. Chen, one of Sarah's junior detectives, stuck his head into the van. We've got movement on her overseas accounts. She's trying to transfer everything out. Right on schedule, Sarah said, checking her watch. Let's give her one more hour. Let her really panic. As we waited, I thought about Mother's last months. How many times had I visited, never suspecting that Olivia was slowly killing her? The mysterious symptoms, the constant fatigue, the mental confusion. We'd all attributed it to age and illness. All except Mother. She'd known, or at least suspected. And instead of confronting Olivia directly, she'd gathered evidence, planned her counterattack, and trusted me to finish what she'd started. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a series of messages. You think you're so clever. Did you really think I wouldn't have a backup plan? Remember what happened to Mother when people got in my way? Sarah read the messages over my shoulder and nodded to her team. That's enough. We've got her threatening you in writing. Time to move. Everything happened quickly after that. Police cars silently surrounded the house. Sarah's team took up positions at every exit. Through our surveillance feed, we could see Olivia and Mother's study, frantically shredding documents. Miss Chen. Sarah turned to me. Would you like to do the honors? I took a deep breath and called my sister. She answered on the first ring. Finally, Diana, everything's gone wrong. The accounts, the properties. I know, I said calmly. That's because Mother left everything to me in her real will, the one she wrote after she discovered you were poisoning her. The silence on the other end was deafening. What? Olivia finally whispered. The will reading today was a trap, Olivia. Every document you signed was actually a confession. Every account you tried to access has been tracked. We know about the other women too, Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Pierce. Did you really think you could kill 3 wealthy women the same way and no one would notice? You're lying, she hissed, but I could hear the fear in her voice. Check the window, I said quietly. I watched through the surveillance feed as she walked to the study window and saw the police cars. Watched her perfectly maintained composure finally shatter. You really should have paid more attention, I continued. While you were playing the perfect daughter, Mother was documenting everything. And after she died, I continued her work. Every conversation you had about the accounts, every meeting about selling the properties, every attempt to access your poison stash. It's all been recorded. Diana, her voice took on a pleading tone. We can work something out. I'm your sister. You killed our mother, I said flatly. Slowly poisoned her while pretending to care for her. Just like you killed those other women. There's nothing to work out. Through the window, I could see her reaching for her desk drawer, where we knew she kept a gun. I wouldn't, I said quickly. The house is surrounded. There's nowhere to go. How? She whispered. How did you know? Because Mother told me. In the letter she left with her real will, the one you never found because you were too busy forging the fake one. She knew what you were doing, Olivia. She just needed proof. Sarah gave the signal, and her team moved in. I watched through the feed as they entered the study, as Olivia was read her rights as the last pieces of her carefully constructed life fell apart. She looked straight at the hidden camera as they let her out, her eyes filled with a hatred I'd never seen before. She knew exactly where I was watching from. Well, Sarah said, closing her laptop, I'd say that went according to plan. Later that night, I sat in Mother's study. My study now, looking through the evidence she gathered. Her meticulous notes showed how long she'd suspected Olivia, how carefully she documented everything while appearing to be just another declining elderly woman. Your sister underestimated both of us, she'd written in her final letter. She thought I was too old to notice, too trusting to suspect. She thought you were too naive to see through her act. Let her keep thinking that, Diana. Let her believe she's won. That's when she'll make her mistakes. Mother had been right. Olivia's arrogance, her absolute certainty that she fooled everyone, had been her downfall. The investigation uncovered more than we'd initially suspected, besides Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Pierce. There were 2 other potential victims, wealthy women whose deaths had initially been attributed to natural causes. Sarah's team was reopening those cases. Olivia's arrest made headlines. Socialite charged with mother's murder. Serial killer in high society. Inheritance scheme turns deadly. The photos showed her being led out of the house, her perfect makeup smeared, her designer outfit wrinkled. Mr. Patterson faced charges too, the lesser ones in exchange for his cooperation. He provided details about how Olivia had blackmailed him into helping her, how they worked together to hide her financial crimes. The real will was validated by the courts. Mother had left everything to me, along with a responsibility I hadn't expected. Half of her estate was to be used to establish a foundation, one dedicated to investigating suspicious deaths of elderly people, particularly those involving potential inheritance fraud. Because Olivia can't be the only one, Mother had written. There must be others out there, taking advantage of those who trust them most. 1 year later, I sat in my office at the newly established Chen Foundation for Elder Justice. On my desk was a framed photo of Mother, taken long before Olivia began her poisoning scheme. She was smiling, vibrant, full of life. Sarah visited occasionally, keeping me updated on the case. Olivia had pleaded not guilty, but the evidence was overwhelming. The trial was set for next month. Your mother would be proud, Sarah said during one visit. The foundation has already helped uncover 2 similar cases. I looked at Mother's photo and smiled. She knew what she was doing. Even at the end, she was 3 steps ahead of everyone. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison where Olivia was being held. Your sister has requested a meeting. I deleted it without responding. There was nothing left to say between us. Olivia had chosen her path, and now she would face the consequences. The foundation kept me busy, and slowly the pain of Mother's death began to ease. Not the pain of losing her, that would never completely fade, but the pain of knowing how she'd suffered while gathering evidence against her own daughter. Sometimes I wondered if Olivia ever really loved any of us, or if we were just means to an end, sources of wealth to be eliminated when convenient. But those thoughts led nowhere useful. Instead, I focused on Mother's legacy, not just the wealth she'd built, but the justice she'd sought even from her deathbed. She trusted me to finish what she'd started, to expose Olivia's crimes and protect others from similar fates. Every time the foundation helped another family uncover the truth about a suspicious death, every time we prevented another predator from targeting vulnerable elderly people, I felt Mother's presence. She turned her own murder into a trap for her killer, using her death to ensure that Olivia's crimes would finally be exposed. It was her final act of justice, and I was honored to carry it forward.